English Leap Podcast.
From Speak English with Class.
Hey there, English learners. Welcome back to the English Leap Podcast, your go-to podcast for learning English in a way that's easy, enjoyable, and helps you grow beyond just language skills. I'm Erin.
And I'm Evan. It's always great to have you here. Whether you're tuning in for the first time or you're a long-time listener, get ready, because today's episode is one you won't want to miss.
Totally. Now, Evan, let me ask you something. Have you ever wanted to completely reinvent yourself? You know, change some habit or aspect of your life, but you find yourself stuck in the same old patterns?
Oh, absolutely. There was a point where I realized I was checking my phone every 5 minutes, even during important tasks. I'd promised myself I'd stop, but then, bam, I'd pick it up again without even noticing.
Ugh, I know that struggle. That's exactly how I feel with procrastination. Like, I decide today's the day I'm going to be productive, but then I start doing everything except the one thing I'm supposed to.
Well, Erin, what if I told you there's actually a science behind why we get stuck like that? And better yet, there's a way to finally break free?
Okay, now you've got my attention. What's this magic you're talking about?
Today, we're exploring how reinventing yourself isn't just about setting new goals. It's about reshaping who you believe you are, because when you change your identity, your habits naturally follow.
That sounds fascinating, and honestly, exactly what I need right now. And it's perfect for our English learners too, because reinventing yourself is key to becoming more confident, fluent, and proactive in your language journey.
Exactly. So, if you're tired of those old habits and ready to discover the secret to real transformation, stick around. Today's episode is for you.
And, as always, we've got a special treat for you, our free PDF guide for today's episode, which includes key takeaways, comprehension questions, and grammar exercises to help you break free from old habits and enhance your English skills at the same time.
And don't forget, we'll also be introducing some new intermediate-level vocabulary throughout the episode. These words and phrases will help you sound even more natural when you speak English. And we'll be breaking them down in Charlotte's vocabulary section later on. So, Erin, let's get into it. You've been saying for years that you're a procrastinator. But have you ever stopped to think, what if that's just a story you're telling yourself?
Oh, 100%. It's like I've convinced myself that this is just who I am, and that gives me an excuse every time I put things off.
Exactly. The way we see ourselves shapes how we act. If you believe you're naturally a procrastinator, guess what? You'll keep procrastinating. It's not even a conscious choice. It's your identity leading your behavior.
And that totally applies to English learners too. If you keep telling yourself, I'm just not good at English, you're way more likely to hesitate, avoid speaking, and stick to what's comfortable.
But here's the thing. You're not stuck with the identity you've given yourself. Reinventing yourself starts by shifting that belief.
You know, Evan, I read that our brains actually rewire themselves based on what we repeatedly think. So if I constantly say, I work better under pressure, my brain will literally make me believe that.
Yeah. That's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your brain goes, oh, this is what we believe? All right, let's make it true. So if you always think, I'll do it later, guess what? Your brain strengthens that habit.
So, I've been training my brain to procrastinate without even realizing it?
Pretty much. And the same goes for English learners. If you're constantly thinking, I struggle with English, your brain reinforces that. But if you shift it to, I'm improving every day, your brain starts looking for proof of that instead.
Wow. So the first step in reinvention isn't just changing what I do, it's changing how I think about myself.
Right. But changing how you think isn't enough. You have to clearly imagine the person you want to become. Have you ever actually pictured yourself as a non-procrastinator?
Not really. I just think about what I should be doing, but I never visualize myself actually being that person.
That's the problem. When you visualize your future self, it becomes more real. Instead of saying, I need to stop procrastinating, picture yourself as someone who gets things done immediately. What does that look like? How does that feel?
Oh, I see. So instead of just hoping to be productive, I need to imagine myself as the kind of person who's naturally on top of things.
Exactly. And this is key for English learners too. Instead of just setting vague goals like, I want to get better at English, visualize yourself confidently speaking in conversations, understanding movies without subtitles. Really see that version of yourself.
I love that. It makes the goal feel more real and way more motivating.
Yes, but here's the thing. Just because you visualize your future self doesn't mean your old self will disappear overnight.
Ugh, tell me about it. I've been telling myself for years that I work better under pressure. But honestly, it's just an excuse to avoid starting early.
Yep, and that's the trap. We hold on to outdated stories because they feel familiar. But those stories keep us stuck. Reinvention means letting go of that old identity.
Wow, that's so true. And for English learners, this is huge. I hear so many people say, I've always struggled with languages, as if that's a permanent fact. But it's not.
Exactly. Think about Colonel Sanders. He started KFC in his 60s after failing at multiple careers. He didn't let his past define his future. Reinvention has no age limit. English learners need to do the same. It's never too late to change your story.
So, no more, I've always been this way. It's all about who we're becoming, not who we were.
All right. Now that we're letting go of our old identities, let's talk about what actually creates change. Small, consistent actions.
That makes sense. I always think I need some massive overhaul, but honestly, that just overwhelms me and I end up doing nothing.
Exactly. Big change happens from tiny steps. Instead of telling yourself, I need to be productive all day, just commit to 5 minutes of focused work. That's it.
Oh, I love that. 5 minutes feels so doable, and once I start, I usually keep going anyway.
Exactly. And the same applies to English learners. Instead of thinking, I have to study for an hour, start with 5 minutes of speaking practice. Or listen to one short podcast. Small steps build momentum.
This is gold. Reinventing myself doesn't have to be some dramatic life shift. It's about daily choices, one tiny step at a time.
That's the key. Now that we've got a solid foundation, let's dive into how we can change our inner dialogue to reinforce our new identity.
Oh no, you mean I have to stop saying, ugh, I'm so bad at this every time I mess up?
Yep. Because the way you speak to yourself shapes your reality. If you keep saying, I always procrastinate, your brain goes, got it, let's keep doing that.
Wow. So basically, my brain is just following orders?
Pretty much. And English learners do this all the time too. They say, I'm terrible at speaking. And guess what? That thought makes them even more hesitant to practice.
So instead of, I'm so bad at this, I should say, I'm improving every day?
Exactly. It might feel weird at first, but your brain will start believing it. Change your words, and you'll change how you act.
Okay, I'm on board. No more trash talking myself, only words that help me grow. But what if my surroundings are part of the problem? Like my phone is right next to me, begging me to scroll instead of work.
That's a huge one. Your environment either helps you change or keeps you stuck. If your phone is distracting, put it in another room. If your workspace makes you feel lazy, refresh it to feel more inspiring.
So, if I want to reinvent myself as someone who takes action, I need to set up my space for success.
Exactly. And for English learners, that means surrounding yourself with English. Listen to English podcasts, change your phone settings to English, Put sticky notes around your room with new vocabulary. Anything that immerses you in the language.
I love that. If you want to change, make sure your environment is helping, not hurting, that change.
Now, here's something most people don't realize. Reinvention isn't about one big moment. It's the small choices you make every day.
Right. I always thought I'd just wake up one day and poof, I'm suddenly a super productive person. But in reality, it's about those little daily decisions.
Exactly. And the same goes for English learners. Fluency doesn't happen overnight. It's about consistent practice, even if it's just 5 minutes a day.
So, the secret is making small daily choices that reinforce the new me?
That's it. If you do something every day, no matter how small, it becomes who you are.
All right, Evan, I'm convinced. Now, how do we make sure we stick to our reinvention?
Commitment. The real change happens when you make a decision and stick to it. It's about saying, "This is who I am now," and proving it with your actions.
I love that. So for me, that means I commit to taking action right away instead of putting things off.
Exactly. And for our listeners, that means committing to one habit that will help them grow, whether that's practicing English daily, speaking more, or changing their mindset.
All right, let's do this. If you're listening right now, what's one small step you'll take today to reinvent yourself? Say it out loud, write it down, or even share it with us.
And before we wrap up, let's turn things over to Charlotte for today's vocabulary breakdown.
She's got some great intermediate level words and phrases from today's episode that will help you express yourself more naturally in English.
Thanks, Erin and Evan. Today, we covered some powerful words and phrases to help you on your journey of reinvention. Let's go over a few key ones. Reinvent yourself, meaning to completely change something about yourself, especially to improve. Example, after years in finance, he reinvented himself as a travel photographer. Procrastinate, meaning to delay or postpone something, often unnecessarily. Example, she procrastinated on booking her flight until the prices doubled. Self-fulfilling prophecy, meaning a belief that influences actions in a way that makes the belief come true. Example, he believed he was unlucky in love, and his lack of effort made that a self-fulfilling prophecy. Momentum, meaning the force that keeps something moving once it has started. Example, the company gained momentum after launching a successful marketing campaign. Overhaul, meaning to completely change or improve something. Example, the restaurant overhauled its menu to attract more customers. Visualize, meaning to form a mental image of something you want to achieve. Example, before the exam, he visualized himself answering questions confidently. Subconscious, meaning the part of the mind that influences actions without conscious awareness. Example, her subconscious fear of failure made her avoid taking risks. Immersive, meaning a setting that deeply engages you in an experience. Example, the virtual reality game provided an immersive experience that felt incredibly real. Break free, meaning to escape from something that holds you back. Example, she broke free from her unhealthy eating habits and started exercising regularly. Identity shift, meaning a change in the way you see yourself, leading to new behaviors. Example, after moving to a new city, he experienced an identity shift and became more outgoing. That's all for today. Keep practicing these words, and you'll sound more confident and natural in no time. Back to you, Erin and Evan.
Thanks, Charlotte. Those words are definitely useful for anyone looking to level up their English.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode. We hope this conversation gave you the motivation and tools to start reinventing yourself, whether that's overcoming procrastination or becoming a more confident English speaker.
And don't forget to grab your free PDF guide for today's episode. It's packed with key takeaways and exercises to help reinforce everything we talked about.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep taking action.
We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Your progress doesn't end here. To continue advancing your English skills, click on the next video or explore the additional videos we've thoughtfully selected for you.